Oh, one of the residents of Mos Espa. There.
Was one guy still in business?
He's like, I gotta stay open.
We never close. Whether wind or rain or Rancor.
Or Rancor. This is crazy. Look at this concept. He's like, he offers a Rancor, hey, can you not step on my business? Look, I gotta move these Melaroon.
I'm a small business owner. Times have been tough. Oh, that's from the Christmas special. That's a shot rematch from the Christmas special.
Just he's got the stirrups in there, like.
Okay.
I'm down, man. These Rancors can move. Have we ever seen a Rancor's like feet so much?
Yeah.
This is cool. What if you just ate him?
That's what. What was the movie Deep Blue Sea, where they're like it's dead? Or no, the first Pacific Rim when Ron Perlman's character is like,
oh right,
this thing stinks, and then it bites and eats him.
They would never do that.
No, that would be. And also, you gotta love the Second City reunion there. Pasquazi and the Strangers with Candy,
right?
Back together
again. Didn't Pasquazi do a bit on her True TV show too, where he was the knife guy?
He did. I mean, they've been friends for like 40 years.
Yeah, it's so sweet. These two can we just have a scene together? I just love how the music is Fett, Boba, Fett, this whole time.
Ooh.
Who's
getting that bath?
I figured BK wouldn't fit in there.
No.
Oh, Cad Bane.
Oh.
What is he wearing, a turtleneck?
Why is his hair so nice? He looks like Billy Bob Thornton.
Jobs turtleneck in there.
It looks like a Billy Bob Thornton character.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. The Book of Boba Fett has turned its final page, and we did finally get a book in this show, even if it was just Boba Fett's handwritten note to Dave Pasquazi's major domo telling the Pykes to right off. Is Boba Fett promising nothing, really the deeper metaphor of this series? In what ways did this series ending leave the Star Wars universe changed and unchanged? We're gonna break it all down as we ask, what the Fett?
The Fett!
This is Wookieeleaks, New Rockstars Book of Boba Fett after show, and our weekly reaction to the latest in Star Wars. I'm Erik Voss. My Easter egg breakdown is coming tomorrow, but right now, I'm here to help you process and work through this finale, all 7 of these episodes, with my favorite Star Wars fanatic, Tommy Bechtold.
Yes, Erik. No, you know me, I'm a big Shakespeare guy, and I guess what I could say about this entire series is it was full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Or, I mean, I understand why people have mixed reactions coming out of this, but I kind of approached it the way like MJ does everything in Spider-Man No Way Home. You keep your expectations low, you never get disappointed.
Never be disappointed.
And I kind of figured after the episode 5, episode 6, I just kind of accepted the way they structured this season is really, really weird, and I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy the ride. Because we knew we were going back to Tatooine, and I figured their big cameos were already spent. Like at that point, I would have been shocked if we had like de-aged Han Solo, or if we had Kira show up. I held out hope, but the fact that Cad Bane showed up, that felt like the big cameo. So I was just like, okay, we're just gonna get a battle between Boba Fett's United Forces and the Pykes. Maybe we'll get some Tuskens coming over the ridge. I don't know. And at the end of the day, I think I overall enjoyed it. I'm happy with this. I'm not gonna get too burned by this. You know,
I did too. Like you can't really. I mean, I know. Like all kidding aside, like you can't tell me that we're gonna get a Cad Bane and Black Chrysanthemum appearance in this show in a 7-episode show, and then have me end up being like, well, I hated it. Like that was to me. I thought that both of those additions were excellent. I like that Black Chrysanthemum is still out there. I think he's a great live action addition to this saga. He can show up on any show, it feels like, and be kind of a menacing or sigh of relief enforcer. So yeah, I overall I think I enjoyed it too. That was not a beginning, middle, and end. That was kind of just here is some more Star Wars.
Exactly. If this is the world we're in now, both in Marvel and in Star Wars, I would say with this season of Boba Fett, it feels like this is the case more with Star Wars. It just reminds me of being in the middle of Clone Wars or in the middle of Rebels, and you would have these random arcs that just kind of felt disconnected from other things, but you're still grateful for experiencing it. And I think that's Filoni's bigger vision, is that you can just drop in on characters as they're going on their journeys. and just kind of follow where they go. And I think for people who expect a mini series that has like this really tight arc, a character journey, I would say on Boba Fett, it was there. It was not as pronounced as it
Yeah.
was on something like on Loki or WandaVision, or like my favorite show from the past year, Station 11, which makes me cry when I think about it because it's so perfect. But it did feel like I got to drop in with Boba Fett for I guess what ended up being 5 episodes. I got to get an episode with Luke and Grogu. I got to get an episode with Mando and learning more about the Darksaber. And I'm grateful for that journey. And if that's all these Star Wars shows are, as long as some of them might give us this arc, I imagine this Obi-Wan Kenobi series will probably give us that. I'm okay with that. Like, honestly, it just gives me an excuse to hang out with you every week.
And you know what? I'll take a million shows that don't have anything, that don't have any beginning, middle, or end if we get to hang out every week and talk Star Wars.
Right.
You know what? Sometimes they can just be shows we make up, puppet shows.
Yeah, I mean, look, all of this is just like ways that Tommy and I can trick Philip and our other bosses into just like, hey, there's a new Star Wars show coming out.
Yeah, we better cover it. But we better do like 7 pre-episodes. Yeah, exactly.
And to that point, you can actually see Tommy and Philip and me and Jessica Clemens. We are so excited to be headed to Chicago this Friday for our special live show with Rooster Teeth's Very Normal Podcast Store. We're going to be joining the great team at the Face Jam podcast. And we're sharing this live show that's going to be Friday, February 11th, 2 days from now, 8 p.m. Talia Hall. If you're in the Chicago area, you got to check it out. It's going to be a blast. Tickets are still available. I'm just putting the final touches on the show. We did a run through earlier this week. We were laughing the entire time. It's going to be so fun.
So fun. I got a fun new jacket that I'm going to wear. Guys, it's going to be, guys, if for nothing else, just get the cheap tickets and come see the jacket and walk out after I get out there. But
just a glimpse of the outerwear and then get out of there. It's worth braving the harsh cold weather
to see
of the Windy City.
The jacket's not going to disappoint, guys. And there will be a meet and greet with the jacket. Not me, though.
Just the jacket. Just the inanimate carbon rod of the Rockstars team is Tommy's jacket. Tickets are still available. Check the link in the description. And let's recap what happened this episode. So in this finale episode, we actually begin in the bombed out ruins of the sanctuary. And Boba growls, "We are at war." And they are joined by Mando. Fennec's like, "That was fast." And he's like, "Yeah, well, I wasn't allowed to talk to the student. It was more like you just kind of observe on the other side of the window."
Yeah.
And just
his kindergarten teacher said if I interrupted, he was just going to want to leave class and then he'd never go back to kindergarten again.
Right. So I'm gonna help you fight this war. So what's going on? You got everything squared away, right?
So suicide mission for me then sounds great. I'd love that.
And he promises them that the Freetown garrison is on his way. And I just wanted either Fennec or Boba just to be like, them?
Yeah.
That's the best you could do.
Right.
Those ranchers, that dozen or so ranchers, I saw like 2 houses in that town. Them?
Also, why is Boba so agreeable? He's like, Mando is like, they call it Freetown now. And he's like, well, then tell Freetown we are grateful for them. And it's like, he didn't go like, no, I'm still calling it Lost Pellos.
Actually, call it Bobaville. It's called Bobaville now. We're changing its name.
Away again in Bobaville. Drinking out of my watermelons and sand.
Well, Boba's like, yeah, they're coming. He does not yet know that Cobb Vanth has had this duel with Cad Bane. But it sounds like no one knows that Cobb Vanth was just shot in the shoulder. The Mod Squad arrives, and they start figuring out where they're going to use their base of operations. Boba wants to fall back to the palace, thinking that would be the strategically advantageous place to do it. But they're like, no, we got to stay in the town. We got to show the people the town. We got to show those 4 different fruit vendors that we have their backs.
That's right.
Whereas everyone else in this town, the gang members who hate us.
That's right.
The couple people, Stephen F. Root, who is just waiting for Boba to die.
He can't wait to work with the Pykes Syndicate.
So meanwhile, in Mos Eisley, Cad Bane meets with the leader of the Pykes Syndicate, played by Phil Lamar, and the mayor of Mos Espa, of course, voiced by Robert Rodriguez, who also directed this finale's there too. And the Pike leader lets Cad Bane in on the truth that it was not that Nikto speeder gang that murdered the Tusken family of Boba, but it was actually the Pykes who framed them. As we suspected, they staged it to look like the biker gang had done it. They just appropriated their little symbol, and Boba Fett bought right into it and took them out. And it was all this cruel thing brought up by the Pykes saying, like, we need to look out for our margins. We got to cut out some overhead here.
Sorry, guys. It was a business decision.
So then we cut to an X-Wing approaching Mos Espa. Usually a sign of some official interference. She even thought it was Captain Carson Teva, but it was no one other than Grogu and R2-D2. This is crazy that R2 just piloted by himself. Grogu just, I guess, sat in that cockpit the whole time. Luke was not going to join him for this. No. He apparently was salty over being denied. I don't know what happened.
I wish they had just shown Grogu picking the chainmail shirt and Luke just being like, "What the fuck? Are you kidding me? Are you turning down?
Do you know what this is? This is
you
Yoda's
out of your mind?
Yoda's lightsaber.
It's Yoda's lightsaber, you asshole!"
And he tries to poke him with it. He's like, "Well, I want to go. Fine. R2, take him back." No,
I just don't get Gen Z. I just don't get Gen Z with their TikToks and their chainmail shirts. Their best car steal.
Well, then Amy Sedaris' Pelimoto says my favorite line of the episode. Grogu, that's a terrible name. She hates it. Obviously speaking on behalf of the fans who do not get the name Grogu and will never call him Grogu. But then reveals that he is wearing his Beskar chainmail, of course. So Boba Fett's forces start to get into position. The mod squad combing the streets. Through Auskelis territory, the Gamorrean guards posted at that spaceport, Black Chrysanthemum, near City Hall and Trandoshan territory. Back in the sanctuary, Cad Bane walks up. So whoever was a lookout near the sanctuary was sleeping on the job.
Whoever's looking out anywhere for Cad Bane is not exactly what I would call inconspicuous. He's a blue sneaky man with red eyes and razor-sharp teeth, and he just seems to be able to roll up anywhere without anyone pushing back. They're like, "No, this guy seems pretty benevolent. I don't think we need to worry about him." He's
a 70-year-old Duro walking straight down the middle of any road.
Yeah.
How did no one spot him?
He's like Ed Harris in Westworld, and just like walking, like everyone's just programmed not to interfere with him, so he can just blow him away whenever he wants.
Exactly. And Cad Bane, interestingly, straight up betrays the Pykes by telling Boba Fett what they did, that they were the ones who took out the Tuskens, which was just an interesting point of contention. Like, it shows that Cad Bane is not as interested in working with the Pykes as we thought, that really, this is just personal for him and Boba Fett. He wanted to get Boba Fett's blood boiling. He wanted to lure him into a duel because he knew that despite his old age, Boba Fett has missed a few steps over his time. He could smell the Bacta fluid on him. So this guy's weak. I could take him.
This guy's been taking a lot of baths lately. A lot of baths.
Little bubble bath Boba. I can take him.
Little bubble bath Boba.
Finally, Boba heeds Fennec Shan's advice and says, now's not the time. I like seeing this. These two finally listen to each other. But then everything falls apart. The Auskelis turn on the mod squad. And it looked like it wasn't so much a trap. It was just like hey, we're going to open our barrels and pull out some blasters and start shooting at you.
This was like kind of like a bad mafia movie sequence where it was like all the families all turned on each other, like where it's like, we told you you couldn't trust each other the whole time, but like nobody was really being that discreet about it. They all just kind of like were like, yeah, we've been standing in basically an attack position for the last 5 minutes, and now we're just pulling our weapons out.
Yeah. It's the same thing with like the Trandoshans versus Black Chrysanthemum, the Clatoonians against the Gamorrean guards. Those poor Gamorreans falling off the cliff.
Squealing all the way down.
Hard to watch. It didn't have to scream all the way down.
They should have done a Wilhelm scream just for no reason. They did one later in the episode.
We did get a Wilhelm scream late this episode.
But if it was a Gamorrean that was like, ah! That would have been great.
Yeah. This all felt just like a little weird. Like, I didn't know that Black Chrysanthemum's goal was to fight any trouble that came. Like, you would think if they were just there as lookouts and they shoot and then they run back to report. The Gamorreans, they were standing on the edge of a cliff, and then these Clatoonians just stood on the other side of a train, and then that was enough. Like that, the whole system felt like a really bad plan.
Yeah.
Like,
also,
you were set up to be doomed.
One thing that we know is that after the clone troopers ran out, the stormtroopers must have been mostly staffed with Auskelis and Mod Squad, because none of those people could hit each other with their blasters. They were shooting at each other for like a solid 2 minutes of TV time, and there were like 0 fatalities or 0 even people getting winged.
Some of the mods got hit and taken out for sure, but it was all the red shirt mods.
Yeah, the red shirt the red
shirts are the red shirts. So at the sanctuary, Boba Fett actually gives Mando an out. I thought this was a touching moment, saying like, you can fly off world. This isn't your fight. And then Boba says, it's against the creed. And he says that they're going to go down together. I thought this was really sweet.
Yeah.
And I thought it only makes sense. I thought this was like a good way of connecting from the past episode that like at this point it shows that Mando is okay with Grogu living his life with Luke, that he made his acceptance. He no longer really has that purpose if Grogu doesn't need him. So he's like, okay, this is a good of his way to die as any. So I'm going to go down with another guy in Mandalorian armor. I think that's an honorable way to go. I mean, the armor hates me. Paz Vizsla hates me.
Yeah.
I might as well go down with this guy.
Right? Bo-Katan's probably going to try and kill me one of these days.
Right.
God knows what Apollo Creed is doing off-world. Who knows?
So they quote the title of the episode, we're both going to die in the name of honor. But the Major Domo, our improv legend, Dave Pasquesi, said, hey, an alternative. I studied on Coruscant, the art of negotiation. And he's going to bring Boba Fett's terms of surrender. And I love Boba's choice here.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Write something
it was
down.
So good. He was like, sounds good.
Yeah. Pasquesi did not read the whole thing. He just literally read it like on prompter. Ron Burgundy, that whole tablet until he got to the word. Realized that this guy was screwed. I honestly loved this moment. I'm gonna go into more, but this might have been my favorite moment of the episode, just because like I know some people find the Twi'lek Major Domo a little annoying. I think Dave Pasquesi is brilliant, and all the choices he makes just are so funny. Where he's like pausing, he's like correcting himself mid-sentence, rolling his eyes.
And it's like I think that they're just like in big fantasy epics like this, you're not used to a kind of like such a comedically like big sniveling kind of bootlicker character, you know what I mean? Like usually that character is played with like kind of a vile twinge where they're like, yes, my lord, and then like as soon as the lord turns away, they're like, and I've poisoned your milk or something like that. Dave Pasquesi is just like, he glad hands, he's like a total politician. He smiles at everyone, even when they're insulting his appearance and like saying things that like I'm sure the Twi'leks are borderline racist. He's just like, that never gets old. And like, he just continues, like it's just relentless positivity. He's like the Ted Lasso of Star Wars characters.
Yeah. Or, you mentioned like, it probably was the case that Pasquesi and Amy Sedaris were casting these shows through their connection with Jon Favreau back in their improv days in Chicago. Absolutely. I think it's the case, but I think directly Sarah Haley Finn probably looked at Pasquesi's work on Veep as Selena Meyer's ex-husband as just this kind of like piece of shit. The way everyone on that show is just playing the same game. And he played this game on the Book of Boba Fett now. And I don't know if everyone on the show is playing this game, but like Pasquesi did the homework. I love his character on this show.
He did great.
Well, they're about to kill this Major Domo. Boba Fett totally set him up to die, which I just think was so funny. He knew what they were going to do to him, but they end up using that as a stalling tactic. So Din Djarin and Boba Fett jetpack in, and they just go to town like Gimli and Legolas, but without the counting. I would have liked a bit of counting. It would have been fun if they just counted up through Mandoa numbers, that would have been fun. But as they become outnumbered, they do get some backup from, the dozen or so neighborhood watch members of Bobaville, Freetown, led by the Weequay proprietor, W. Earl Brown, who we learn his name, Tonti. That's fun.
Hi, Tonti.
Giving everyone time to rally, hold off the first wave of the Pykes. The mods make it back in. Fennec Shand saves the mods. That was nice to see.
Yes, that was cool. And says manners. I like that. Lowers down her face, even though we've seen her face before, reveals a little more of her face.
But it seems like they've won the first wave of the battle, but it's a false victory because the Scorpionic Annihilator droids show up. These terrifying droids have been referred to in Star Wars canon, but never actually seen in any TV show or movie. They're based on a piece of concept art for Star Wars Attack of the Clones, but eventually morphed into another design. But here they are, huge, hulking, fully armed, impenetrable force field protecting them, reminiscent of the Droidekas in Phantom Menace, but even bigger and even harder to penetrate.
I kept waiting for and then Schwarzenegger just to show up naked, like just blasting through in one of those time traveling bubbles.
What? I mean, it would be whoever got out of the back to tank, just kind of wet.
Your Gondorians are dead. Hang up the phone.
Well, Pelimoto shows up in one of those ESPCA chariots, you know.
Yes.
She's like, hey, look who's back. It
took me back to my harness racing days at Batavia Downs, Eric. It was really heartwarming. Also, she whipped the droid at one point, and I'm like, wow.
she did. She threw the thing she mushed him, and it worked. He went faster. Well, Bobo shows up riding the Rancor. One of my other favorite moments of this episode, leading us to this insane kaiju battle between the Rancor and the Scorpionic droid, just smashing the city to bits. The droid shields do eventually get weakened. We get this like interesting rationale with the shields. They're like, oh, our kinetics have too much velocity. So like Black Chrysanthemum has to slowly go through it, which felt like another just take from Dune, right?
Yes,
like they have to slowly move forward through the shields in order to penetrate them.
Right.
Like it's not about like using blasters to go through. You have to
also, I forgot to mention earlier in this, Black Chrysanthemum's like laser knuckles that he uses in the fight are I don't know if we can invent that technology, but like I dream of one day hitting someone in the face with like a lightsaber brass knuckles. Those things were awesome.
Yeah, those things were some of my new favorite weapons of the show. Well, the shields do get weakened. Mando's able to get in there with a Darksaber finally, but doesn't go for the eye. He just starts slashing away at anything. It seems like Grogu's going to take it down, but just pulls a bolt out of it as a toy.
Yeah.
Which is such a great moment, you know? I love that setup.
It was amazing.
And it just gives Mando enough time to get out of there. So they're finally able to just smash this thing. And I love the do it. Just pulled it apart.
Yes.
What a great moment there.
Yes.
So this leads to Boba Fett and Cad Bane having their long-awaited showdown. And if you are a fan of Star Wars lore, you know that Clone Wars creator Dave Filoni envisioned this showdown between these two characters that was part of the unfinished Season 6 arc, where it's going to be a younger Boba Fett and Cad Bane. That was going to lead to the dent that you see in Boba Fett's helmet. The showdown's finally happening, but I think Cad Bane asked a question we've all been wondering. What's your angle? Why are you doing this? Why do you care about saving this town? And Boba Fett assures him, really, there is no angle. He just says, this is my city. And Cad Bane takes him down. He had him. He had him clear in his sights. But what saves Boba Fett in this moment? Not the Tusken Raiders actually being still alive. It was all represented in the gaffy stick.
That's right.
And I will say, it felt satisfying to see him defeat him with the gaffy stick.
Yes.
But did he have to kill Cad Bane? I'm a little bummed.
Yeah.
I loved Cad Bane as a character.
But is anyone ever really dead? Luke promised us in the first trailer of The Last Jedi, no one ever really dies.
Yep. I mean, that overhead shot of Cad Bane just laying lifeless, I wanted him just to go,
slither away like Exorcist style on his back. Jesus, that guy is so creepy.
Well, now we got to deal with the issue of this rampaging Rancor, right? So he climbs the tower, full King Kong mode, throws a speeder at Boba Fett's amassed forces, beats the hell out of Mando until Grogu comes in and looks at the beast. And it is the most striking image of the entire episode when he's able to, just put this to sleep and then nuzzles up to it with a little nap. What a beautiful little moment.
What a cute little munchkin. Oh, every time Grogu moved in this episode, I just went, ah, and then someone would die.
So Fennec Shan takes out the other remaining forces, Mare, Mok Shaiz, the Pike leader, does the Godfather baptism sequence there, but all just kind of in one room. So now we're back in the streets of Mos Espa, and Boba and Fennec walk the streets, getting some respect from the townspeople. He waves back, doesn't salute him back, just kind of waves, does a little queen.
Why is it got to be my right arm?
He says someone is using the back tank right now, but it's not Black Chrysanthemum, who I thought it was going to be. He shows up right there. And then we get to see the Ratcatcher droid come back, and they're all just kind of hanging out. It's great. But then we cut to Mando and Grogu in the astromech port of the Naboo starfighter. It's great. And then we get the sweet little Mando style moment between the two of them where he's like, okay, one last time. And he uses the sublight thrusters.
Oh, God. And you know what? Put that on loop because it was so cute. It was so adorable.
And then we do get a post-credit scene or mid-credit scene where we do see who's in the back of the tank. It is Cobb Vanth wearing a weird Steve Jobs style turtleneck.
Yes. And perfectly coiffed
hair. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, no, we don't need you to change. Timothy Oliphant's like, I could take off my shirt, but why give away the goods?
That's right. I feel like they were setting him up just in case he needed to go do an episode of Inside the Actors Studio right after. They're
Yep.
like, we got to have you fully hair and makeup ready.
And he's there with our guy Thundercat,
Yeah.
ready to do some mod art on this guy. Turn him into a mod. He's like, give me the Fennec. Give me the Fennec.
But what does he need? I don't like. Does he just need like a little
Shoulder.
like plate on his shoulder? Like he's just
I
getting
think
it.
it just needs. Yeah,
I mean, my dad got that surgery last year from Thundercat.
And is his life not better as a result?
No,
I mean, your dad-
no, he's constantly
No.
he's fighting off aliens in the desert.
So what are we meant to take away from this finale? What was the true book of Boba Fett? I have some thoughts on that. But first, our friends at Epic Hero Shop still have some shirts available inspired by Boba Fett. This latest obsession will be returning to the Sarlacc pit soon, so you gotta jump on it. When you do, you'll get the added option to write in a custom shout-out that will appear on screen during these Wookieeleaks episodes. We got David saying, amazing cameos this season, hoping to see more bounty hunters in live action, specifically Dirge. Agreed. That would be really fun in a future season, because we're just gonna have new seasons coming out with all these characters, whatever it ends up being called. Michael says Star Wars is at its best when 3PO isn't around to annoy everyone. Michael, wow. Some shade at our favorite protocol droid.
Michael.
He might. I understand what Michael's saying when it comes to Clone Wars. Man, those 3PO episodes of Clone Wars are really hard to get through. They're meant for kids, not meant for grown men watching kid shows.
Grown-ass men watching cartoons about Star Wars, baby.
And then Franklin says, could you guys tell my friend to watch Clone Wars, the TV show? Thanks, guys. Love the content. I mean,
am I your friend, Franklin? Because my answer is still no.
Watch Clone Wars, just so you can understand these shows better, right?
Okay.
I mean, Clone Wars has so much good stuff in it. All right, what was our question coming out of this episode?
Eric, one last time for this specific structure. What the Fett was the book of Boba Fett?
Yes, what was this show? We did joke about it in the intro, but I really do think that note that Boba wrote for Bisquazy's Twi'lek Majordomo to read to the Pykes was kinda the perfect symbol of what the book of Boba Fett as a series was really all about. Because yeah, we gotta be honest, this series was weird. It was structurally insane. In Filoni's overall vision for these interweaving series, this was really The Mandalorian 2.5, without a doubt. Like, it'll be more remembered for what we learned about the Darksaber, the fate of Mandalore, about Grogu, the Luke
I completely
Skywalker's
forgot about
school.
that.
Yeah, you forgot about it now after this episode, but as we, have new seasons coming out, we're gonna think back on those things. I don't really think we're gonna think that much about everything that happened on Tatooine. I think we learned some really cool stuff about Tusken mysticism. I think we learned some interesting stuff about the city of Mos Espa, and then we got some cool new characters showing up. But overall, I think we're going to think more about the revelations about Grogu, about the Darksaber, as always. These are the stars of these Disney Plus series. So why do we spend so much time on Tatooine? Why structure these episodes with extended flashbacks and then these Tusken spirit quests that ultimately by the end of this episode just really live on in stick form? And then episode after episode, watch Boba Fett falling upwards literally out of the Sarlacc in the opening images, and then almost falling back into the Sarlacc, and then falling upwards against a criminal network composed of Hutts and Pykes and Wookiees and Duros who are all smarter and deadlier than he is. Was this all really just so Grogu could take a nap beside a Rancor and Cobb Vanth could end up in a Bacta tank as Thundercat turns him into a classic characters fans like the least in this miniseries? Now, I'm sure many of you are commenting right now saying I'm hating on this show, but I hate to disappoint you. While it is easy to feel that way, you know what? I don't feel that way. I enjoy this. After covering so many of these Disney Plus seasons, I've now learned to know when to keep one's expectations in check. And I just knew after those insanely packed episodes 5 and 6, there was just no way a return to Tatooine would top those levels of fan service. And so I quite enjoyed this Rancor versus giant droideka, kaiju bullshit. I thought it was super fun. I'm hearing a lot of like armchair film school analysis saying that Robert Rodriguez doesn't know how to direct action. They keep calling the Spy Kids, and it's like, Robert Rodriguez is a pretty good action director.
Yeah,
I think there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes. There's a couple other examples
you're leaving out of his repertoire when you just narrow it down to Spy Kids.
I think there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes of the show, why it was structured this way. I think they probably found out midway through that the character of Boba Fett, from a writing standpoint and Lucasfilm as a whole, didn't have a clear take on what this character's chief motivation was. might have gotten scared halfway through and decided to restructure it halfway through, brought in the big guns of Filoni, of Bryce Dallas Howard to direct some of these things, and really Robert Rodriguez was left to just do cleanup work. And to his credit, it often doesn't feel that way. Got a lot of people on Twitter saying, there's so many cuts in this. There's so many edits. You don't know how to direct action if you have to edit so much. It's like, what is the best action film of the past decade? Mad Max Fury Road. You know how much George Miller cut in that movie? He cuts constantly, and it's gripping, and it's amazing because editing is filmmaking. You do have to cut. Not a single long take makes a good movie. If anything, a long take is just a flex by a director and how well they block things on their sets. A long take doesn't often make a good direction. Watch the opening shot of Spectre, which has the random stupid long take, which tells you nothing about a character. Long takes, it doesn't mean good directing. Editing. Yeah.
Well, plus ask anyone who's ever worked on a show or a movie that does a long take. It's miserable. It sucks. It's miserable. It's really fucking miserable.
It's great when they pull it off and it tells you something about the character. Yeah. Other than that, it's just a director just showing you. Other than that, it's a lot of you
going, "Oh my god, I can't believe we have to do this again."
Yeah, exactly. So I think Robert Rodriguez is a great director. I don't know everything that was going on behind the scenes, but I think he put together something that was super enjoyable at the end of the day. But I will say, I did have a gripe. I mean, I had a few gripes, right? I have a few gripes with all these shows. One thing that I feel like was a missed opportunity that bummed me out was in this big face-off between Boba and Cad Bane, we got zero mention of their past duel that resulted in the dent in Boba's helmet. Like, he did say, he mentioned to a past where he's like, "Oh, you're not a younger kid anymore," or whatever, right? But like, why can't they just talk about the dent? Why does it? Because if Cad Bane is dead, that's never going to come up again. Not to say we can't see it. We could see that stage in live action earlier in their lives, but I just would have liked some reference to it. But other than that, that's it. Like, I didn't need de-aged Han Solo or Kira or Bo-Katan or Rex or Omega or Mace Windu. Like, I would have liked maybe a Rohirrim of Tuskens coming over the ridge just to redeem their unceremonious slaughter earlier this season. But ultimately, I suppose Boba beating Cad with the gappy stick was enough of a victory there. I just keep coming back to the exact words of Boba that he wrote for the Major Domo to read to the Pykes. And the more I rewatch that clip, I really think it is a kind of gospel for how the Book of Boba Fett actually resulted in some permanent change, or at least his outlook of an optimistic future for this Star Wars universe on Tatooine. Here is what Boba Fett wrote, super fast, by the way. He wrote this all by hand. He said, "I, Boba Fett, speaking as daimyo of the Tatooine territories formerly held by Jabba the Hutt, do present the following offer: nothing. You will leave this planet and your spice trade. If you refuse these terms, the arid sands of Tatooine will once again flourish with flowered fields fertilized with the bodies of your dead." And the Major Domo tags it with a ritualistic, "the word of the Lord." But in this case, he says, "his words." And a great moment. I think it says it all. That book, that right there is our book of Boba Fett. Listen to that poetry. Alliteration there. Flourish with flowered fields fertilized. He wrote that off the top of his head. And I think Boba is alluding to what I find to be the most fascinating thing revealed about Tatooine on this show, something learned only through Boba's experience with the Tuskens on the night of his march to the Gaffy Tree, and mentioned briefly by the great Stephen F. Root before he was cut off. That Tatooine used to be covered in oceans and rich vegetation. We did not learn what disastrous event caused that, but we did see something similar happen on Mandalore, a planet bombed to bits. Probably happened on Tatooine as well. Yet Mandalore still possesses the living waters underneath the surface that Mando will visit in The Mandalorian Season 3. Likewise, I think some kind of form of living waters may exist and can now return to the surface of Tatooine. Because it was heavily implied throughout the season that the reason for its arid state, the reason why Tatooine's still a shithole, is because it is used as spice territory. Now, it is not mined there, it's mined on Kessel, but it seems like it is brought there to be processed. These drug deals happening, these drug transfers happening, their trains comb through their desert, mowing down banthas and Tuskens. The deals are happening in the cities, preventing true business opportunities from flourishing. And I think the implication is that without the Hutts or the Pykes plaguing this planet, a curse has been lifted. So now we may finally see some natural gaffy trees springing up. Imagine the stones being returned to the Indian village in Temple of Doom. That's kind of what it feels like. That next time we visit Tatooine, I guess next time we visit it was later on when Rey goes there in the final scene of Rise of Skywalker, right? But I'm hoping now we can start seeing some more vegetation. We can start to see Tatooine return to that natural state and at least see some social mobility for the Tuskens. Because remember, there was that line where Fennec said that, hey, maybe we should keep some of the spice trading active because the Hutts, they pay well. It's going to be a profitable thing for us. A lot of credits in that. And Boba said, no, no dice on spice. So I think with Spice gone from the planet, that curse has been lifted from the blood-soaked homeland of the Skywalkers, and we've gone from death to life. And that, in my eyes, is the Book of Boba Fett. But Tommy, I wanted to ask you, did you feel any of this? Or do you think that if that was Robert Rodriguez's and Jon Favreau's and Dave Filoni's intention, that they could have done a better job executing it in these episodes?
No, I think that it's I almost wonder if the returning of vegetation or the returning of the way Tatooine used to be is more metaphorical. You know what I mean? Like it's more of like a blossoming of the people that live there and the species that all live there. Because it's always interesting to me the way Tatooine is laid out is like it's very isolated. It's these cities that are very isolated from each other with just vast desert in between that you really can only get to by either walking through tremendous heat and just brutal sun or having some sort of speeder or some sort of craft. So I almost wonder if it's a symbolic kind of reawakening of the planet rather than just a physical, we're going to see vegetation pop up. I feel like it's more we can see the Tuskens interacting with the cities more, the trade being, kind of a more interconnected world. It's just, making the world a little smaller, one electronic device at the time, much like our world today. Maybe the introduction of iPhones, or something like that to get everybody going. But seriously, I think it's a little too like almost like animated movie-ish to have had like a spring pop up at the end and like people being like a kid picking a flower or kind of almost like a post-apocalyptic world. But I think it's more the metaphor of Tatooine becoming a thriving planet again with the elimination of spice. Get the spice out of there, just like my Aunt Barb's potato salad at a 4th of July picnic. No spice, no seasoning.
Yeah, but what you're saying is like maybe a little too cute by half, a little on the nose. I would have loved a final shot, I think, that returns to those two gaffy trees in the middle of the Dune Sea, and then maybe we just pull back and we see like another leaf or some kind of desert
All right, you know
fruit
what? You sold
springing.
me on that image
I
specifically.
didn't have to do anything there. That was the easiest sell
Yeah, I'm back in. Eric, I
You're
can't
back
say
in.
no to you. I just look at I look at you in your blue dungeon with your cute Mandalorian shirt or your cute Boba Fett shirt, and I don't know. You sell me
You're
on
in the
anything.
Blue Dungeon too. You're
You know
also
what?
in this
Let's
dungeon.
get back to pod racing. Let's use the fossil fuels of pod or whatever.
Or how about this? Like, they had the Miller fruit that BK takes a big bite of at the end. Like, it would have been more fun, I think, maybe if those Miller fruits were just a little rotten as they collapsed on the Major Domo in the previous episode, and now it's like ripe, suggesting like, oh, it's this is a more fortuitous place to do business and to have fresh produce. It's now a true farmer's market because the
Yes.
conditions here are starting to improve.
with occasional Rancor attacks.
Yeah. Because here's the deal, like before we got to episode 5 and episode 6 of the series, and then that just blew our minds. It was just like kind of like not cheap fan service, but it felt like candy. It felt like Halloween, before we got there, we were just trying to derive some meaning of what they were trying to say about Boba's journey with the Tuskens here on Tatooine. For a second, it did feel like, oh, this show should just be called Tatooine, like the Tales of Tatooine or something like that, or the Secrets of Tatooine. Like the episode 2 was just so fascinating to learn, like the Tusken ways, their mysticism, their religious beliefs, their traditions. I loved that. And I love a show that just explores I didn't need to go to space at that point. It wasn't until they just pulled away from the Tuskens and started to visit parts of Tatooine that were not as well defined and showed how Boba Fett did not really have a clear strategy or a plan for how he wanted to bring the criminal parts of the city into the fold. Also, if it is a criminal network, what crime is Boba Fett overseeing if not the sale of spice? Like, it's a criminal network. Your wannabe Tony Soprano Well, you're not truly working in waste management. People are dying and selling
Right.
drugs,
It kind of
selling
feels like
guns.
the only thing Boba wants to do is take bribes from like nightclub owners. Like
Right,
that's the only crime he's comfortable. Like I guess
right.
providing protection. Maybe that's
Right. I loved everything in the flashbacks way
yeah,
more than in the present era.
yeah,
So as soon as those flashbacks really ended and his time with the Tuskens really ended, that's when I got confused about what the show really was. But
yeah.
I would watch a show, honestly, if it was just the Tuskens grunting at each other with their massives,
Mm.
doing their journeys of going to gappy trees. Like
Hmm.
that to me is fascinating. I'd
Yep.
watch that. I don't need an outsider to join them. I'd love to watch just some Tuskens wordlessly grunting at each other, talking shit about the people over in Freetown, you know,
Hmm.
dealing with the crate dragon, dealing with the Sarlacc,
Hmm.
there's a whole world there. And I love that I would watch a whole show if it was just Tatooine.
Absolutely.
It's when it tries to do too much where I
Yeah.
get a little lost. And I think that's where we got a little lost. But still, at the end of the day, there's so much great that came out of this series, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful for all that. I'm
Yeah.
in a good place right now
I
after
agree. It
this
was
after
really
this finale.
overall very enjoyable.
Yeah,
You can pick it apart and you can have your complaints and gripes about it, which I'm sure we all do. And like, you can call out what worked and what didn't work. But at the end of the day, I still left going like, oh, I'm glad I watched that. That was good, and I'm looking forward to more. Like, it wasn't like one of those things where I left the theater going, the hell just happened,
yeah.
or, like it
No,
was like,
I
okay,
understood. I got a sense of like, okay, this was a different show
right,
than
yeah,
I thought after episode 2, and I
yeah,
understand it. But I also concluded that in episode 5.
right, right,
As
right,
soon as Mando walked in with the dark saber, I'm like,
yeah, yep,
this is a different show than I thought. Okay, I'm not bummed about that.
yep,
Well, we're going to talk some more, but first we want to thank our friends at HelloFresh. Our friends at HelloFresh are shipping out farm fresh, pre-proportioned ingredients and seasonal recipes right to your doorstep. You can save time and money that you can better use to run your desert planet criminal empire. HelloFresh delivers pre-proportioned ingredients to your door, including farm fresh produce that arrives within a week, so you can get convenience without skimping on quality. Customize your favorite dishes with their new Hello custom offerings by swapping out one protein or side for another, upgrading for a more luxe experience, even adding protein to a veggie meal. That means more choices, more variety, and more meals truly tailored for you. HelloFresh is 72% cheaper than a restaurant meal of the same quality. And you can save on average over $65 a month when you order HelloFresh instead of grocery shopping. That's money back in your pocket because you're not wasting any ingredients this way. They give you exactly what you need to make this great meal. Anytime I try to use produce in a meal, I always feel bad that I'm wasting. It's so hard to shop for the exact amount that you need for something like that. Well, HelloFresh solves that for you. We're big fans of HelloFresh in our house. I actually made a shepherd's pie last night. I'm nervous about making British cuisine. This is the only meal I want to eat for the rest of my life. It was so good. So it's just such a great excuse to try cooking new things in a way that sets us up for success. The food is always tasty. I feel an extra sense of accomplishment for cooking something new. So you try it yourself. Go to HelloFresh.com/Wookieeleaks16 and use the code Wookieeleaks16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. That's HelloFresh.com/Wookieeleaks16. Use the code Wookieeleaks16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 free gifts. We also want to thank Peloton for sponsoring this episode. When you're trying to develop new habits, you want to keep things fresh to avoid burning out, right? Well, our friends at Peloton are helping you keep things fresh by offering new classes, new music, new ways to keep yourself motivated to work out. The folks that make the exercise bikes that everybody loves also have a great exercise app, and you don't even need to have one of the bikes to use this app. Peloton has a workout for every day and every schedule. De-stress from a long day with 30 minutes of strength, 20 minutes of cardio, or just do a quick 15-minute total body class before work. Stay motivated while having fun with bike workouts, yoga, boxing, dance cardio, and more. Peloton is offering more great music to their app, including a fun new artist series classes. Work out to the music of a single artist for an entire class, from your favorite hits to the deep cuts. I'm excited to try the meditation classes. After a long season of the Book of Boba Fett, I could, use some meditation time, my own kind of like app back to tank. And that's what this Peloton app does for me. It's a back to tank for my mind. So you visit onepeloton.com to learn more. That's ONEPELOTON.com. And last, we want to thank Magic Spoon for sponsoring this episode. We all love delicious sweet treats, but if you're trying to eat clean and mean, like the boba of Tatooine, Magic Spoon can help you. Magic Spoon cereal has 0 grams of sugar, 13 to 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving, only 140 calories a serving. It's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb. Grab yourself a variety pack for the 4 flavors of cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter. You can try mixing those flavors. Chocolate and peanut butter go together so well. It's my favorite combo. Frosted and fruity go really great together. So go to magicspoon.com/Wookieeleaks to grab a variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use our promo code of Wookieeleaks at checkout to save $5 off your order. And Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/Wookieeleaks and use the code Wookieeleaks to save $5 off. And again, we thank Magic Spoon for sponsoring this episode. Okay, Tommy, I want to ask you, after this final scene, where are Mando and Grogu headed now?
I think obviously the indicated answer is they're going to be searching for some sort of information in those underground lakes. But I think that the beginning, their first stop is that they've got to go be, and I know this sounds ridiculous, they've got to go be present for the trial of Moff Gideon. I think we're going to see them, not necessarily Grogu take the stand, but I think that they are key witnesses and key participants in the crimes of Moff Gideon. Not participants, I guess you could almost say victims of the crimes. So I think they are headed to some sort of New Republic outpost courthouse to witness the trial and, let's hope, conviction of the dastardly Moff Gideon. What about you, Eric? What do you think?
I think that's such a brilliant idea, Tommy. I didn't think about that. I was thinking, yeah, they're going to head to Mandalore. He's going to go dig down to those mines, go swimming. Grogu's going to be like, what are you doing?
He's going to be looking, Grogu's looking for slugs to eat.
What a fascinating opening scene. It reminds me of Sherlock Series 3, maybe, where Moriarty goes through a criminal court proceeding and gets off. Like, that and gets off in all kinds of ways. That guy is horny in the show.
He gets off all right.
Hot Priest was once a hot criminal mastermind.
That's right.
Anyway, I would love to see just the collapse and the corruption of the New Republic, because the New Republic is not on stable footing at this point in history. There's a lot of infighting happening right now, to where Leia was trying to be a rallying figure, but she has some political rivals, and eventually just says, you know what, I'm done. I can't do this. You guys are all messed up. There's like plots, there's coup plots, bombings. It is totally plausible that Moff Gideon is able to plea insanity or something like that, or blame someone else, or able to, like, because they're trying too hard to make it fair and just, he could use that new, weak, untested justice system against them and get off. Or just use like influences that he has in this New Republic to say, look, you need me, maybe he offers dirt on someone else, and then he's able to use that to get a lightened sentence, and then he breaks out. I would love if the opening scene is just the kangaroo court of Moff Gideon, and he's able to play that to his advantage and able to get out. Because I
order the release of Moff Gideon immediately. I thank you, Your Honor. And then he goes out and flies away in his TIE fighter, and it'll be great.
It's like when we watched Chernobyl, right? And Chernobyl is like history. The final episode is like the court proceedings that they did to convict the guys who made the terrible decisions. Oh, 3.5 Veronkin, not too bad, not great, not too bad. Those guys, but the whole court was really just like set up to appease Western scientists to show that the Soviet Union was on top of it. Those guys were going to be convicted either way. But as you're watching it, the way they wrote and directed that episode, it felt like really scary. Like, oh my God, are these guys going to be able to walk? Are things so corrupt that they're going to walk? And I would love to see like a similar, I just want to visit what's happening in the New Republic right now. I want to see how screwed up it is.
I agree.
But yeah, I think in Mandalorian season 3, we got to visit Mandalore. We got to visit the living waters of Mandalore. Bo-Katan has to show up, right? I want to see Sabine Wren. I believe is showing up in Ahsoka, but I believe all these characters can really just show up ultimately.
Yeah.
I want to know what happens to the Darksaber, and I kind of want them to either move on from Mandalore or for us to learn that Mandalore was not truly bombed to bits, you know? I think there's some further secrets to that planet that I would love to explore. I wanted to also ask you, Tommy, why did Luke let Grogu return to Tatooine unattended other than R2? Is Luke salty that Grogu chose Mando over him?
I don't think so. I think what we are now seeing is phase 2 of Luke. Phase 1 was kind of petulant, impatient child, wanted to get off of Tatooine, wanted to go out and explore, wanted things to happen fast, didn't want to do his training slow. Now, and then we know phase 3 is like old, cranky, fed up, and like kind of like seeing the error of his ways, almost kind of like a broken man Luke. I think in the middle we have like little Mr. Perfect Luke, like little like, I am so zen and so centered and so one with the Force that he's just like, I gave you the choice. You chose not to. All right, R2, get him out. I think it was more, I don't think it was an emotional choice for him. I think he was like, I'll train Grogu because he called out for me at that Jedi site. And then, okay, well, Grogu is still attached to Mando. There's nothing I can do about that, but I'm also not willing to compromise my Jedi beliefs to hybrid train him as a Mandalorian foundling and a Jedi youngling. So, all right, R2, get him back to his daddy. And I don't think it was, I don't think it was an emotional choice. I don't think it was salty. I think it was like, I hate to say, like a business decision for how Luke wants to run the new Jedi.
I think that's a really good point, Tommy. And I think one thing we can take away is that this was a step in Luke's journey to do eventually to build the school and train his nephew that leads to the events of the sequel trilogy. I've never been a fan of this argument that the sequel trilogy needs to be erased from Star Wars canon. Yeah. I understand they are flawed films, sure, but I enjoyed so much about what they did. I would hate if those ever got erased in the same way that I was really, really worried when they erased all the EU stuff when Disney took over. Luckily, now Dave Filoni's bringing back all the best parts of the Legends.
He's just kind of like, Dave Filoni's opened the fire door, and he's been like, come on back in. We're going to have you cameo in this episode. You exist now.
We need someone like the way Dave Filoni loves the prequel area. We need some Lucasfilm artist who just loves the sequel area and is able to recontextualize it with like a background, a live action series that just shows us, like, gives us more context to the characters that we saw. I don't know if that will ever happen. But I did like, we're starting to get that a little bit with like Luke's history after Return of the Jedi. And he's building the school. We're only a couple years out from when he recruits his nephew, Ben Solo. And the fact that Grogu had to rebuff him, had to turn away from him so that Luke would turn to his nephew. And I think that's a mistake, obviously, right? Because if you're telling a Jedi Padawan that they have to detach from all relationships, tell that to your nephew.
Yeah.
You're the brother to his mom. You're the son of his grandfather.
You're his uncle. Yeah. It kind of explains why Kylo Ren does some of the things that he does, you know?
I think it directly explains it. I think it's what makes him so conflicted to be vulnerable to Snoke / Palpatine's corruption. And that's ends up Luke creates his own destruction there. And you could blame it on Grogu, but Grogu doesn't know what's going on. He's just he's making the right choices for him.
Yeah, Grogu's just trying to eat frogs and, pollywogs.
But I do love the implication that did set up that chain of events, that we see the school, the early days of being built. We know what's coming. I also wonder how that X-Wing got back to Luke, right? Did R2 just really pilot it remotely?
I guess. Does he listen to music on the way? Like, is he just like through the sky, like listening to like Wham or...
He calls 3PO and says, "You have to talk to me. I got a long flight. I got to do by myself. I need you to talk to me the whole time."
Babe, stay up with me. Babe, stay up with me. I don't want to fall asleep while I'm flying this thing.
Yes, I am listening, my friend. You're not listening. We're wrapping up here. We're going to talk more and more about Star Wars every week. I just want to give you a chance. Any final thoughts you had about the Book of Boba Fett?
Yeah, I thought overall there were two really interesting paths that, not to steal from Mallory Rubin from The Ringer, but like the theme of this. And to me, the theme was evolving. And you had two very distinct evolutions in this show. You had Boba Fett evolving. And in the end, Boba Fett only being able to truly succeed at survival and defeating his enemies by learning from the Tusken Raiders. Like he all of his skills as a technologically advanced master of weapons, jetpacks, blasters, missiles, things like that, they all failed him. And in the end, what he needed most was the catching people unawares with the martial arts and use of the gaffy stick, or the Tusken Raider stick. So I thought that evolution was interesting, that like the road to educating yourself and bettering yourself isn't always a linear path. Sometimes you have to experience different cultures and different things to be able to succeed at what you want. And then the other person that had that event was Grogu, who was set on this path to become a Jedi Padawan and ultimately wanted to become some sort of force-using Mandalorian foundling, something that we haven't really seen put on the screen before. So his path is now, he's not done learning. I'm sure that he's still going to have different teachers that aren't just Mando. I'm sure he'll have other people in his life helping him shape his use of the Force. Like, he's not going to stop using the Force. We're both hoping that he'll at some point hopefully wield the dark saber. But like, I think that it's just his path is no longer a traditional path of being a Jedi Padawan turned into Jedi Knight turned into Jedi Master. It's like we now have these two distinctly unconventional paths of betterment from these two, kind of massively popular characters.
I love the shout out to Mallory Rubin over at The Ringer. Mallory and Joanna Robinson, their Ringer aftershow. I mean, everything on that House of R, what's it called? Their multiverse feed. That also you have Van doing the instant reactions.
Yes,
that's a huge part of my diet for Star Wars. Like
they
have helped me recontextualize and think deeply about these characters. So definitely give them a subscription and a listen. They're amazing. I think you are right. And I think we're all part of this experience of, Clone Wars watchers, Rebels watchers already understand this. We know it's a patchwork. We know sometimes we're going to follow characters. It's just going to feel a bit episodic and sometimes a bit aimless. But I think most Clone Wars watchers were totally fine with this series. Like it feels like a better version of that. But I think if you go into this expecting a very tight 6-episode, 7-episode arc for a character as they make this transition, this change in their life to where everything ties back into that theme. I don't know if we're going to get that from this corner of media, No. And I'm okay with that. I don't need this to be that. With the Mandalorian's first 2 seasons, it was also that. It did also feel wandering, episodic, aimless, not really sure where it was all headed. But the difference was we had this core relationship of Grogu and Mando that felt just very simple from the beginning. We knew biologically, instinctively, what their needs were and why they loved each other. We didn't have that core relationship with Boba. It's not just about one character. I think, one thing I learned back when I was trying to write a lot of film scripts is that it's not just about one character's inner journey. What hooks an audience is a core dramatic relationship. Sometimes that relationship can be a character's relationship with the two halves of themselves. I thought from the first 2 episodes that was going to be the case, that Boba's past and his present were going to be in war with each other, or Boba's clone identity versus his Tusken identity versus his bounty hunter identity were going to be in conflict with each other or have some kind of relationship. I don't know if that was ever clearly spelled out in the show. I would have liked to see more of a relationship between Boba and Fennec Shand. 2 very interesting characters, but both kind of the quiet, stewing gunslinger characters, usually in other worlds. So as a partnership, I didn't really ever, by the end of the show, understand what their deal was together. And I think that's what was missing for a lot of general viewers of the show, is they just wanted to know what was really motivating Boba Fett on a base level, that something that we can universally connect with. And other than him just saying, "This is my city," the fact that the Tuskens were killed off so early, if it was just something as simple as, "I want to give Tuskens a seat at the table," that's something that we can connect with. We understand that story. We didn't get that story. So instead, we were just we had to make that adjustment in our heads of, oh, this is just Clone Wars. And that can be delightful and fun. And it's just more Star Wars stories. And I think once I was able to make that pivot halfway through the season, I've been coasting for the rest of this season. And I've fully enjoyed it. I've fully appreciated it. And I'm okay if more series feel this way. I don't need them all to be tightly structured.
Me too. Amen. A woman. A all of us. In his own words. Or whatever the Major Domo said.
His words. Well, that is it for this episode of Wookieeleaks. But again, my Easter egg breakdown is coming tomorrow. A lot of cool stuff hidden in this episode. Tommy and I are going to be back every week to talk Star Wars. Next week, we're going to answer maybe some lingering questions you had after this season of Boba Fett. Beyond that, we're going to look ahead to Obi-Wan Kenobi that is coming in May.
Will the Super Bowl give us a teaser?
Maybe.
Hopefully,
that'd be exciting.
Give us content. Yum, 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 yum.
Nom, 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 nom. And don't forget to check out our many great merch options at newrockstarsmerch.com. Follow me at EA Voss. Follow Tommy at Tommy Bechtold. Follow New Rockstars. Subscribe to Wookieeleaks wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for watching, and we
have spoken.